I'd love to hear your story and what happened to you on the day of the Cuddly Creek fire.
Well, we live right on the end of the power line where the tree fell, so our power went off. That was how we knew. And then a fire truck went by and we looked on the internet and saw that it was only, 7 kilometres away or something. So we started to pack.
So what kind of things did you pack? Like what did
we grab?
Was the most important? Yeah, at
What
the
was
time,
most important
like in
to
the
you?
heat of that
Well,
moment.
we always we've had for years a bag by the front door that had the important documents, citizenship papers, those sorts of things, birth certificates, titles, a backup of the computers. How about you guys? Did you?
Our plan was always to stay and defend, so that was always the plan. And I was watching it, and I knew we weren't going to get a fire truck, and I knew that we probably weren't going to get an aeroplane and all that sort of stuff. You know, that reliance on
on a day
on days like that. You know, there's just one, not enough to go around, and two, they couldn't see. So you know, the reality is, you know, you're on your own, and you're going to be on your own for a period of time, and it's going to come in a hurry.
I was in Mount Barker. I was in Mount Barker with the children.
All right.
When we heard that the fire was going, and I actually called into my work and I said, I'm going to have to go because there's a fire at Cuddly Creek. And someone said, but that's miles from your place. And I said, yeah, but not as the crow flies.
And I just got home and said, you know, our plan was to stay, but I just said to Tanya, take the kids. They don't need to see this. I know what's coming because I'd seen it.
And at that point, I'd said to the children, OK, it's time now to get the clothes on that we need to wear, you know, the long pants and the long shirts and the hats and everything. And we started to fill up the bath, and I think that's when you guys got a bit upset.
Got a bit upset?
I felt scared but safe because we were leaving the fire. But then I thought sad because the fire was getting closer and Dad would be on his own. A little scared but safe because you could see the smoke because we went to Dad's office in Road Ridge and there was another fire in another place and it was all smoke in the air. It was like weird, it's like orange sky.
The house is very prepared, so when, you know, we have a really good defendable space, so you know, by the time the fire actually hit the house, it wasn't like you would have seen at Cuddly Creek or so on, because there was just nothing here. All those paddocks were all eaten out, and we do that every year. That's part of our plan. All the grass around, I had some sprinklers running and things like that. So there was an extreme amount of preparation that went into the property. That starts really early on in the year, in October, November. We're really make sure everything around the house is all cleared, all cleaned out, up and things like that.
Yes, ours really isn't. It really wasn't. It should never have been allowed to be built, actually, because it was a little wooden house in amongst trees. And so we always knew it was vulnerable, but nonetheless we thought we were coming back next day because it happens so often before. And
so did you know?
No, we didn't know. Okay. Yeah, there was no news about how our place had fared.
Okay. Wow.
And so we came around the last bend and it was gone. Everything was gone, you could see.
Very
lost
confronting.
Absolutely everything. We were self-employed. We were working for ourselves for 4 to 6 years. We had a little factory. We were making educational toys, and we are involved in creativity. So we had studios, studios, everything go on.
I don't think I was prepared for the emotional stuff.
I think for days and days, we just couldn't make decisions.
Next?
Yeah. And there were so many things that had to be done.
I think there's a significant amount of emphasis as there needs to be on pre-planning and property preparation as we need to do, and that, this is still here, so that, obviously works. But some of the things I've been grappling with now is there needs to be a post-fire checklist. You need to think about post the fire, if we get impacted, what are the things we need to do? I need to make sure that the stock don't get out. I need to talk about the fencing. I need to contact the insurance. I need to, do a whole raft of things that I now know that I never
thought about before.
And wish I didn't have to know about now, but...
One of the things that I've done is purchase a fireproof safe. And I sat down the other day and organised all of the documents that I thought that I might need before a fire, after a fire, including, you know, insurance policies, phone numbers, all that sort of thing. And that actually gave me a little bit of peace.
That's actually a really brilliant idea. Yes, I think expectations, you can throw them out the window, really. You just have to put everything, all sorts of possibilities in place, I think.
I think the other thing that you need to build into your plan is some kind of accountability to somebody. One of the biggest impacts from the fire on us, or particularly you, was the fear of those couple of times when, you know, your mates went missing. And that was, you know, I don't know how you do it, but, you know, they were alone and out of communication. And that was just scary for everybody. Yeah.
Also, I think, I was just thinking before when you were talking about having a plan to stay here, to prepare anybody who plans to stay, I think should do this, to prepare mentally for things like the sound of it, to know that what you're likely to experience, really. Especially in the case of kids.
A friend of mine actually said to me only recently, I didn't realise how much the house was going to fill up with smoke. And we've got smoke, we had smoke damage in our house. And, you know, it was very minor, but talking to her about that, we can't imagine having to be inside with the house full of smoke with the children.
What changes would you make to your plan, having been through this, as a result of going through this?
I think one of the things we do need to do is have a complete review of the plan and build in strategies for things that we might not expect. Like, we may not be able to leave, I may not be able to take the children, so what are we going to do in that circumstance, even if that is the preferred option?
So Ray, if there was a single thing to put on your plan that you'd like to add to it, or the most important thing on a plan, what do you think that is?
I think the most important thing on a plan is to prepare your property and yourself. Because if you prepare your property, then part of that is preparing yourself. You understand that you are at risk from bushfire, and that if you prepare properly, then you've got a really significant chance of saving your property and looking after yourself, more importantly. So that's probably, for me, the most important thing.
At least now we've got a bigger generator so we can generate the TV.